The galaxy held its breath. After Operation Dawnstrike, no one could deny humanity's power. Fleets once thought unstoppable had been paralyzed. Strategic planets had been infiltrated, communications disrupted, and yet the humans had caused no unnecessary destruction. They had sent a message: strength without recklessness, survival without chaos, unity without fear. In the halls of Luther Prime, the High Council convened once more. The glowing crystalline panels reflected the tension on every face. Even the most proud generals and senators whispered in awe. High Chancellor Sareth Cole addressed the council with quiet authority. Humanity does not fight like any species we have encountered. They do not follow our rules. They do not seek glory or conquest. They fight to survive and protect their own. Their victories are precise, deliberate, and astonishing. Admiral Veltra paced angrily. They have humiliated us repeatedly. They invade, strike, and vanish. They must be stopped, destroyed. If we delay, they will take more systems. Sareth Cole's voice remained calm. Veltra, the humans are not our enemies in the traditional sense. They are a challenge, one that teaches us humility. We must adapt before we strike, or we will repeat our mistakes. Across human space, Admiral Elena Morrow reviewed the results of Dawnstrike. Her fleet had returned without a single major loss. Every ship, every pilot had performed flawlessly. Yet Elena knew the Empire would not surrender easily. We've shown them what humans can do, she said quietly to Commander Reyes. But now, they will learn faster than ever, and so must we. Human engineers and tacticians worked tirelessly, analyzing every Imperial response from Dawnstrike. They studied the new defensive formations, the adaptive drone behaviors, and the altered fleet patterns. Humanity had not merely won. It had taught itself to anticipate the Empire's learning. The Empire responded in kind. Massive fleet movements were detected across multiple sectors. These fleets were unlike anything humans had faced before. Small, agile, and operating independently with decentralized command. The Empire had learned that large formations were predictable, but now its fleets were designed to mimic human tactics, flexible, intelligent, and relentless. Elena and her staff prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Humanity had always relied on adaptability and unity. The fleet trained, simulations ran, and every officer studied potential scenarios. Operation Dawnstrike had succeeded, but the war was far from over. The first real test came near the Asterian Rift, a natural corridor used by humans to reach deep Imperial space. Imperial scouts detected the fleet, and multiple task forces were mobilized to intercept. The battle began with the Empire attempting traditional tactics, large formations, organized volleys, and precise targeting. But humans were ready. Ships split into small groups using asteroid fields and nebulae for cover. Electronic warfare disrupted enemy sensors, while decoy drones created phantom fleets. For hours, the two sides fought silently, the void between them glowing with laser fire and the movement of agile ships. Humans avoided unnecessary destruction, instead targeting communications and engines, isolating Imperial ships and making them ineffective. From the command deck of the Vanguard, Elena observed the chaos. They fight like us, Reyes remarked. They've studied our methods. Elena nodded. Yes, but they've not learned our resolve. We fight because we must survive. That is something no algorithm can fully anticipate. At Luther Prime, Sareth Cole monitored the battle. The Empire's new fleets were performing better than ever. Yet even their improvements could not fully match humanity's adaptability. Imperial admirals whispered in astonishment. They anticipate every move, one said. Every strategy we attempt, they counter. The battle lasted days. Systems on the edges of human space shook with skirmishes and counterattacks. Yet at no point did the humans overextend themselves. Every strike was precise. Every retreat calculated. By the end, Imperial forces had suffered significant losses. Not in lives, but in efficiency and morale. Ships remained, but their confidence had been shaken. Finally, a council of surviving Imperial admirals convened in secret. They spoke of humans not as enemies, but as a force beyond their understanding. They fight differently, said Admiral Trelvar. They are unpredictable, relentless, and united. They do not tire, they do not falter, and they do not seek glory. They only fight for survival, and in that they surpass us all. Sareth Cole's glow dimmed slightly as he listened. Yes, he said softly. The humans are not conquerors, not tyrants. They are something else entirely. Something extraordinary. While the Empire reeled from the revelation, Humans had already begun strengthening their colonies. Operation Dawnstrike had been more than a military success, it was a statement. Humanity had proven that intelligence, unity, and courage could overcome even the most established power in the galaxy. In New Terra, President Arun Das addressed the human colonies. His voice echoed across ships, stations, and planetary networks. "We have shown the galaxy who we are," he said. "Not because we seek war, but because we will survive. Humanity does not fight for pride nor for conquest. We fight to protect, to endure, and to inspire. Today the galaxy sees our strength. Tomorrow they will understand our spirit." Admiral Elena's fleet gathered in orbit around New Terra. She walked the command deck, observing every crew member. Their faces reflected quiet determination and pride. These were people who had faced overwhelming odds, adapted faster than any enemy, and emerged victorious. Not by chance, but by willpower and intellect. Commander Reyes joined her, observing the stars beyond the viewport. "Do you think the Empire will ever truly understand us?" Elena smiled faintly. "Perhaps not fully. But they understand something important, that humans do not fight like anyone else and humans never give up. That is a lesson no empire can ignore." Back in Imperial space, Sareth Cole called a meeting of the High Council. The room was filled with tension, uncertainty, and quiet awe. "We have underestimated them," he said. "We have studied our archives, analyzed our fleets, and observed our strategies. Yet nothing prepared us for their unity, their adaptability, or their courage. They are not to be destroyed, they are to be respected." A young admiral protested. "With respect alone, they will continue to expand." "They cannot be trusted." Sareth Cole's glow intensified. "Perhaps. But consider this. Our greatest weapon is not our ships nor our technology. It is our ability to learn. If we continue to underestimate humanity, we will fail. If we respect them, study them, and adapt to them, perhaps we will survive alongside them." The council remained silent. The lesson had sunk in. Humans were no ordinary species. They had proven that the combination of intelligence, unity, and courage could challenge the mightiest empire. In the weeks that followed, humans and the Empire engaged in smaller skirmishes, but both sides had learned. The humans had taught the galaxy that survival was more than brute strength. It was adaptability, innovation, and willpower. The Empire had learned humility. Admiral Elena stood on the observation deck of the Vanguard, looking out into the vast expanse of space. "We did not destroy them," she said quietly. "We showed them what humans can do when pushed to the limit. And perhaps in time that will lead to something greater. Peace built on understanding, not fear." Reyes nodded. "And if they refuse to understand?" Elena smiled faintly. "Then we'll survive anyway. That's what humans have always done." The galaxy was vast, full of stars, mysteries, and dangers. But one truth had become undeniable. Humanity was not merely a participant in the cosmos. They were a force capable of incredible victories, remarkable unity, and unyielding courage. The Empire had faced many enemies in its long history. None had inspired awe, none had taught humility, none had survived against impossible odds like humanity. And as humans looked toward the future, they knew one thing clearly. They didn't just battle. They didn't just fight. They survived. They adapted. And in doing so, they left the galaxy and the Empire stunned. For the first time in millennia, the stars had witnessed a species that could rise above fear, doubt, and overwhelming odds, and do so not for conquest, but for life itself. Humans had proven it. The galaxy would never forget. Months passed since the mysterious loss of the Imperial scout ship Imperial Dawn. Inside the vast halls of the Galactic Palace, the news caused mild concern but no real fear. Ships vanished now and then. Space was large, after all. The Empire was too proud to imagine that a small planet like Earth could be responsible. Yet whispers began to spread among the fleet officers. Some said the humans had destroyed the ship. Others said the humans were so primitive they probably shot it down by accident. Either way, the Emperor decided it was time to remind the galaxy who ruled the stars, ordered the nearest fleet to make an example of Earth. The 9th Imperial Fleet, 50 warships strong, departed from the world of Kranar. Its commander, Grand Admiral Tavor, had fought in hundreds of battles. He was known for his ruthless efficiency. To him, this mission was beneath his skill, a waste of time. Still, he wanted to finish it quickly, primitive world, he said to his officers. No warp drive, no shield technology, no space weapons. This will take less than a day. The fleet jumped into the Sol system and appeared near Mars. As the massive ships spread into formation, human observatories across the solar system detected them instantly. Earth's governments knew the time had come. On Earth, the skies looked calm, but deep underground, the world was awake. In hidden bases and secret hangars, new ships waited, black, sharp, and silent. They were smaller than the Empire's vessels, but faster and equipped with weapons no alien mind had imagined. In a command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, General Marcus Hale stood before a large holographic map of the solar system. Around him were scientists, officers, and representatives from every major nation. "They're here," said a young technician. 50 ships, massive energy readings. They're moving toward Earth. Marcus didn't panic. He just nodded. "Good. Let them come closer." His calm voice filled the room with quiet strength. Humanity had no choice now. This was their test. Above the Earth, the Empire's fleet entered orbit. Admiral Taver opened a channel to the planet. His image appeared on every major human broadcast. Tall, silver-skinned, wearing armor decorated with the Imperial symbol. "This is Grand Admiral Tavor of the Galactic Empire," he declared. "People of Earth, you have ignored our Emperor's command. You are now enemies of the Empire. Surrender your world or face destruction." The broadcast ended. For a few moments, there was silence across Earth. No one spoke. No reply came. Taver smirked. "Still ignoring us, just like the last time," he said. "Very well. Show them our power. Target one of their cities. Something large." The officers obeyed. A giant cruiser turned its weapons toward the blue planet. On its screen, the target locked on the largest city it could find. Tavor raised his hand. Fire, but nothing happened. The weapon systems froze. The screens flickered. Lights dimmed across the entire ship. Then all at once, the entire fleet systems began shutting down one by one. "What is happening?" Tavor shouted. The chief engineer looked terrified. "Admiral, we're being jammed. Someone is inside our systems." "Impossible!" Suddenly, the ship's screens came back on. But instead of Imperial symbols, they showed a human face. It was a man wearing a simple headset, sitting in a control chair somewhere on Earth. "Hello, Admiral," the man said calmly. "You came uninvited." Tavor's eyes widened. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer. He only said, "You attacked without reason. You threatened our world. We respond without hesitation." Then the transmission ended. Before Taver could give another command, hundreds of projectiles launched from Earth's surface. They were not missiles. They had no engines, no heat signatures. They were magnetically launched slugs, solid metal traveling at 10 times the speed of sound. The Imperial fleet didn't even have time to raise shields. The slugs tore through ships like arrows through paper. The first wave of projectiles destroyed 10 ships instantly. Another volley followed seconds later, ripping through the command cruiser. Tavor's ship was hit twice. The bridge exploded in light and fire. Before the Admiral could scream an order, his ship was gone. In less than 5 minutes, half of the Imperial fleet was destroyed. The survivors tried to jump to warp, but their drives refused to activate, jammed again by unknown interference. "Retreat. Retreat now," one officer shouted, but there was nowhere to run. From the dark side of the moon, human ships appeared, silent, black, and fast. They moved like shadows, firing beams of focused energy that sliced through alien hulls. The remaining Imperial ships scattered, firing wildly, but the humans didn't fight back directly. They attacked from angles the Empire didn't even think to defend. Within minutes, the great fleet that had once ruled the stars was gone. Silent wreckage drifting in Earth's orbit. Down on Earth, General Marcus Hale stood before a large screen showing the aftermath. The battle was over. An officer turned to him. "Sir, we have complete control. No survivors detected." Marcus looked at the screen quietly. "Recover what you can from the debris. We'll learn from it." Another officer hesitated. "Should we send a message to the Empire?" Marcus shook his head. "Not yet. Let them wonder what happened. Confusion is a weapon too." He looked around the command center, his expression calm but serious. "Remember, everyone, we didn't start this. But now the galaxy will know that humanity is not a target. We are a warning." The room fell silent. Far away, across the stars, the Empire's communication centers suddenly detected a single transmission. It came from the Sol system. It was brief, a few seconds long, before it vanished. The signal was encrypted and unreadable, but it carried one word that the technicians could translate. Done. The report reached the Emperor within hours. He listened in disbelief as his ministers tried to explain. How could this happen? The Emperor demanded. One small world destroyed 50 ships? No one had an answer. They must have had help, one general said. Maybe rebels or pirates aided them, but an intelligence officer stepped forward. Your Majesty, the energy readings are unique. The weapons used do not match any known technology. They were kinetic, old-fashioned but devastatingly effective. The Emperor frowned. Primitive weapons? Against our shields? Yes, Majesty, the officer replied quietly. And their targeting was perfect. The Emperor sat in silence for a long time. Then he said, send more ships. This time, a full invasion. I want Earth wiped from the stars. Back on Earth, the scientists and military leaders knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would not stop now. They would return with everything they had. In the underground base, Dr. Elise Grant, one of the lead scientists studying alien technology, approached General Hale. We can't fight them forever, she said. They have thousands of ships. We have only a few dozen. Marcus nodded slowly. True, but we have something they don't. We learn faster. He turned to a group of engineers working on a new design. How long until the new warp engines are ready? 3 months, one replied. Maybe less if we keep working nonstop. Marcus smiled slightly. Then we'll be ready before they arrive. The humans had captured and reverse-engineered many alien systems from the wreckage. They now understood the Empire's communications, warp drives, and even their battle tactics. Every hour, humanity became stronger. As he watched the holographic projection of Earth and the stars beyond, Marcus spoke quietly to himself. They wanted to teach us fear, but all they've done is remind us who we are. Dr. Grant heard him and asked, And who are we, General? He looked at her with calm, steady eyes. Survivors. Weeks later, somewhere deep in space, a small human probe drifted quietly between the stars. On its surface, a simple message was written in dozens of languages. We don't fight for power. We fight so no one can take it from us again. The Galactic Empire had no idea that its greatest mistake had already been made. By attacking Earth, they had awakened something unstoppable, the unity and resolve of humankind. And as the Empire prepared its full invasion fleet, far away on a small blue planet, humanity was already preparing its response. They would not wait. They would not fear. When the time came, they would not fight. They would annihilate. For more than 70 years, the Krill Dominion ruled the galaxy with cold and perfect control. They were a race of logic and machines, their empire spreading like metal vines across the stars. Their ships were fast, their weapons stronger than suns, and their tactics flawless. They had fought 164 wars, and won every single one. No world had ever stood against them. No civilization had survived their invasion. Their name had become a shadow whispered by other races, a promise of destruction that no one dared to test. But then, after 164 victories, the Krill turned their eyes toward Earth. The Krill did not attack in anger. They never did. To them, war was mathematics. They calculated outcomes, measured resources, and decided that humanity was an obstacle. Humans were growing too quickly, spreading to moons and asteroids, learning too fast. In the language of the Krill, that was not acceptable. Humanity was a variable that could not be allowed to grow uncontrolled. And so, the Dominion prepared for war, their 165th campaign. From orbit around the star Vorax, Admiral Zalren, Supreme Commander of the Krill Armada, watched his fleet assemble. 1,000 ships, dark and silver, formed patterns across space like a metallic storm. He turned to his first officer and said in his emotionless voice, "The human world will fall within 3 rotations." "No resistance expected," the officer nodded. "Another record for the Dominion, Admiral." Zalren gave a slow mechanical gesture of approval. "Prepare the broadcast. Inform the other sectors. Victory number 165 begins now." Meanwhile, across the Milky Way, Earth had already seen the signs. At the Lunar Observation Base, alarms rang day and night. Screens flashed with reports of unknown ships moving through the outer system. Each report told the same story. The Krill were coming. Human leaders gathered at the United Terran Command, deep under the Pacific Ocean. The world's greatest scientists, soldiers and strategists sat in one circle, faces pale but eyes sharp. At the center stood Admiral Elaine Carter, a woman in her late 40s, tall, calm, and known for her sharp mind. She had commanded fleets during the Jupiter skirmishes and had never once lost a battle. She looked at the holographic display of the Krill Armada and said quietly, "So this is how they won 164 times." Her aide, Captain Ryu Nakamura, frowned. "Ma'am, their fleet is larger than all our combined forces." "I know," Carter replied. "That's why we won't fight them the way others did." There was silence in the room. Every other species had tried to face the Krill head-on. Every one of them had been erased. Carter turned toward the scientists from Project Command. "Bring me the mirror glass protocols." The lead scientist, Dr. Li Wen, hesitated. "Admiral, that system hasn't been fully tested." "It could—" "I know the risks," Carter interrupted softly. "But we don't need it to work perfectly. We just need it to work once." The Krill arrived 3 days later. They came from beyond Neptune, entering the solar system in silent formation. Their ships blotted out the stars as they advanced. Massive vessels shaped like knives and hammers, surrounded by energy fields. Human outposts on the outer planets sent warnings before they were silenced one by one. But Earth did not panic. For the first time in history, all human nations stood as one. The United Terran Defense Fleet waited in orbit, their ships cloaked by advanced camouflage systems. On Earth's surface, entire cities went dark, hiding under energy shields. And beneath the crust, far below the reach of enemy scans, Project Mirror Glass began to hum. It was humanity's last hope, a strange mix of human intuition and artificial logic. It could bend signals, reflect energy, and distort sensor readings, making Earth seem like an empty ghost planet. Carter watched from the command center as the Krill fleet approached. Her heart was steady. She turned to her officers. "Begin Phase 1. Across the world, massive generators powered up. The atmosphere shimmered faintly, invisible to the eye but loud to alien sensors. When the Krill scanned the planet, they saw nothing alive. No cities, no heat signatures, no ships. Just silence." Admiral Zal Ren sat on the bridge of his flagship, the Vortex Spear, studying the readings. "No life signs detected," his officer confirmed. "It appears the humans have evacuated." Zal Ren's metallic eyes narrowed. "Unlikely. Their species is primitive but stubborn." He raised one clawed hand. "Deploy recon squadrons. I want confirmation." Dozens of sleek scout ships descended through the clouds. For hours they sent back confused messages. Empty cities, frozen vehicles, strange static interference. Then one by one they stopped responding. The Admiral frowned. "Signal loss?" His officers checked. "Negative, sir." "The signals just stopped." Zal Ren leaned closer to the main screen. "Send more units." "This world hides something." Deep underground, Carter stood before a glowing console. The surface trembled faintly as alien landing crafts entered the atmosphere. Dr. Li's voice was tense. "They're scanning every frequency. If they find the source of mirror glass, they might strike here." Carter nodded. "Then we move to Phase 2. Let's confuse them further." She pressed a control key and mirror glass pulsed. The system began to generate thousands of false energy signatures. Fake cities, phantom fleets, ghost transmissions. Suddenly, Krill sensors detected movement. A human battleship above the North Pole. Dozens of launch signatures near Mars and unknown objects orbiting the moon. Zal Ren snarled. "So they are hiding." He ordered his ships to fire. The Krill bombardment began. Beams of bright light shot toward Earth's surface, lighting the dark sky. But as they reached the atmosphere, the beams bent, twisting like ribbons and vanishing into the clouds. In orbit, Krill ships began to malfunction. Targeting systems flickered. Readings changed every second. One of the Krill destroyers accidentally fired on its own formation, believing it was a human vessel. Another ship vanished from radar entirely. Zal Ren rose from his command seat. "What is happening?" His officer looked at the screen in disbelief. "Sir, our targeting data is looping. Our sensors show multiple Earths. We cannot confirm the real one." The Admiral slammed a clawed fist on the console. "Impossible. Recalibrate all systems," but recalibration only made it worse. The Krill fleet now detected ghost ships surrounding them, hundreds of human warships appearing and disappearing across the void. Inside the Earth command bunker, Carter watched the chaos unfold on her own screen. "It's working," she said quietly. Dr. Lee smiled weakly. "They're completely lost. They can't tell what's real anymore." Carter nodded. "Keep the signals shifting. Don't let them find the pattern. We'll make them chase shadows." She turned to her officers. "Remember this moment. The galaxy believes we're the next victims. Let's prove them wrong." Above them, the sky flashed as Krill ships fired into nothingness. Explosions tore through their own ranks, victims of their own confusion. Carter watched silently and whispered to herself, "Welcome to Earth by the next sunrise." The Krill fleet had lost half its formation. Many ships collided or vanished from sensors. From the moon base, Captain Nakamura reported to Earth Command, "Admiral, the enemy is in complete disarray. Some of their ships are retreating to high orbit. Others are firing blindly." Carter stood with her hands behind her back, calm but watchful. Let them tire themselves out. They've never fought chaos before. "Ma'am," Nakamura said, "this might be our chance to strike back." Carter looked at the screen, at the burning fragments of metal drifting through space. Then she said softly, "Not yet. Let them wonder what happened. Fear is stronger than any weapon." Outside, the stars glittered over a quiet Earth, hidden beneath its cloak of false readings and distorted signals. For the first time in galactic history, the invincible Krill had been stopped, not with brute force, but with human imagination. And somewhere deep below, Project Mirrorglass pulsed like a living heart, whispering data through unseen frequencies, preparing for the next move. The battle for Earth had begun without a single human ship firing a shot. In the cold silence of space, the mighty Krill Dominion fleet, victorious in 164 wars, was now in chaos. Their perfect formation had broken apart. Their ships, built to fight organized enemies, could not understand the strange, invisible tricks of humanity. On every screen, false targets appeared and vanished. Ghost fleets surrounded them. Their own sensors lied. For the first time in history, the Krill felt confusion. Inside the Vortex Spear, the flagship of Admiral Zalren, alarms echoed through the halls. The Admiral's cold mechanical face remained calm, but deep in his artificial heart a flicker of doubt had begun to grow. "Report," he commanded. His first officer replied, voice tense. "Our long-range sensors are malfunctioning. We are detecting thousands of human ships in multiple sectors, but none can be visually confirmed." "Thousands?" Zalren repeated. "Their entire species does not possess that many vessels." The officer hesitated. "Yes, Admiral. But the readings are consistent." The Admiral narrowed his metallic eyes. "No, not consistent, manipulated." He straightened. "They're using deception. Find the source and erase it." On the other side of the planet, deep under the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Elaine Carter watched the same situation unfold on her command screen. Around her, the Earth Defense Command buzzed with quiet energy. Technicians and officers worked tirelessly, adjusting data streams, changing frequencies, and maintaining the illusion that had confused the invaders. Carter's voice was calm and firm. "Status of Mirrorglass?" Dr. Lee Wen, standing beside her, answered quickly. "Stable for now. But the energy output is rising. If we keep using full distortion, we might overload the main reactors." Carter nodded. "Then we adjust. Rotate the pattern every 10 minutes. Let them chase shadows that keep moving." She turned to Captain Ryu Nakamura, who was monitoring the orbital defenses. "Any movement from the enemy?" "They're scanning again, ma'am," he said. "Their ships are spreading out, probably trying to locate the real Earth, but their data is full of duplicates. They don't know which one is real." Carter smiled slightly. "Good. Let them doubt their own eyes." Above the clouds, the Krill launched new probes, machines of precision designed to break any enemy's disguise. But as the probes entered Earth's atmosphere, they began to malfunction. Their signals bent back on themselves, returning false readings. One probe thought it was flying through open air when in reality, it had entered the ocean. Zalren watched the confusion grow and felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. "Destroy the atmosphere," he ordered finally. "Burn away their illusions." Krill warships adjusted their cannons, firing massive plasma beams toward the planet. But instead of striking the surface, the beams twisted, curved, and vanished into the clouds. Inside the command chamber, Zalren's officers stared at their consoles in disbelief. "Admiral," one said quietly, "our shots are bending." The energy refuses to stay on course. Zalren's voice darkened. Impossible, but the data was clear. The planet below was not behaving as expected. Its magnetic field was shifting, its gravity fluctuating slightly, as if something enormous was interfering with the laws of physics themselves. Back in Earth's underground base, the lights flickered as power surged through Project Mirror Glass. Dr. Lee looked worried. Admiral, the system is drawing more power than we predicted. It's adapting on its own. Carter looked at the glowing control panels. Adapting? Yes, Lee said. It's learning from the krill signals and reflecting them more efficiently. Almost like it's thinking. For a moment, Carter stayed silent. Then she said softly, "Let it learn. The krill use machine intelligence. It's time they met one smarter than theirs." The words hung in the air like a quiet challenge. As hours passed, the krill became more desperate. They fired in all directions, trying to destroy anything that looked suspicious. But for every fake target they hit, 5 new illusions appeared. From hidden bases on the moon, small human ships began to launch invisible drones, tiny machines designed not for attack, but for misdirection. These drones projected false signals, pretending to be battleships or missile barrages. In orbit, hundreds of false explosions appeared, echoing across the krill radar. The Admiral's fleet AI reported heavy losses that didn't actually exist. Zalren slammed a fist against the console. "We are fighting ghosts," his second officer said nervously. "Sir, permission to retreat and regroup." Zalren turned sharply, his mechanical eyes flashing. "Retreat? After 164 victories? You dare speak of retreat before the Dominion?" The officer lowered his head. "Forgive me, Admiral." Zalren raised his hand. "Continue the assault. Destroy the source of interference at all costs." On Earth, Carter's team intercepted the krill communications. Dr. Lee smiled faintly. "They're panicking, Admiral. Their internal AI systems are fighting each other. Half the fleet thinks they're surrounded." Carter studied the holographic map. "Good, let them fight themselves." Then she gave a new order. "Begin Phase 3. Every satellite, every defense drone, and every radar array on Earth switched to a new mode. Instead of hiding, they started to broadcast false victory signals. Messages pretending that human fleets were winning battles all across the solar system. Krill sensors picked up the transmissions instantly. To them, it looked like hundreds of human ships were ambushing their formations, destroying cruisers and cutting off escape routes. Zalren's command screens filled with chaos. His officers shouted over each other, reading conflicting data. "Sector 5 destroyed." "No, Admiral, Sector 5 is still online. We've lost contact with 3 more ships. Enemy fleet detected behind us." None of it was real, but it didn't matter. The confusion was enough. Then something strange began to happen. From the krill flagship, faint signals started echoing back to Earth systems. They weren't normal transmissions. They were coded patterns, as if the enemy ships were trying to mimic human data. Dr. Lee frowned. "Admiral, the krill fleet is copying our distortions. They're trying to learn from mirror glass." Carter's face turned serious. "Then we have to end this now." She turned to the control desk. "Prepare the final pattern, are you sure?" Lee asked quietly. "If we use that, we might lose control of the system." Carter looked at the display of Earth, a glowing blue world surrounded by the chaos of alien ships. "If we don't, there might be no Earth left to protect." At her command, the mirror glass array reached full power. Every satellite, power grid, and station across the planet linked into one vast network. A pulse of white light traveled through space faster than any weapon, invisible yet powerful. In the krill fleet, systems went dark. Engines shut down. Communication failed. Zalren shouted, "Status report," but his crew couldn't answer. Every console on the bridge was filled with static. Then across the krill fleet, something impossible happened. Their ships began to disappear from each other's sensors. To one ship, it looked as if its neighbor had vanished. To another, the space around them turned empty. Within minutes, the krill fleet had lost all contact, not only with the enemy, but with themselves. Each ship believed it was alone in a vast, silent void. On Earth, Carter watched the readings in awe. "They can't see each other," said Dr. Lee softly. "Mirror glass has split their perception. Every ship is trapped in its own reflection." Carter took a deep breath. "Then it's done." She turned to Nakamura. "Send a global message. Tell every human settlement Earth stands, the officer smiled. Yes, ma'am. Above the planet, fragments of light shimmered across the sky. The krill ships drifted aimlessly, their weapons useless, their formations broken. Zalren stood alone on the bridge of his silent ship, staring into empty space. He could see Earth below him, bright, peaceful, and untouched. For the first time, the Admiral felt something he could not name. Not fear, not anger, but respect. He whispered to himself, "You have earned your place, humans." Then his voice turned cold again. But the Dominion does not lose. Not truly. He reached toward the control panel, initiating one final command. "Activate Phase Omega," he said. His officers hesitated. "Admiral, we are cut off from the network, then send it manually." And with that, the vortex spear vanished from space, leaving behind only faint energy traces. On Earth, alarms blared again. Carter rushed to the main console. What happened? Dr. Lee's hands flew over the controls. Their flagship just disappeared. Not destroyed, gone, like it folded into another dimension. Carter stared at the display. Mirror glass didn't do that? Lee shook his head. No, Admiral. That was something else. For a moment, everyone was silent. The enemy fleet was collapsing, vanishing one by one as if pulled by an unseen force. Carter whispered, "Then we've just seen their first loss, and maybe something more." The last krill ship flickered, then faded into the void. The stars grew quiet again. Humanity had survived. But deep within Earth's underground systems, the Mirror Glass project continued to hum, slowly, almost like it was breathing. The war that should have ended in humanity's destruction had turned into silence. For the first time in galactic history, the Krill Dominion, undefeated in 164 battles, had suffered confusion, fear, and finally, disappearance. Across the solar system, the skies were calm again. No alien ships, no attacks, no signals. Only drifting metal fragments, fading energy trails, and the whispers of what had happened. Earth had survived. But no one understood how. In the underground command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Elaine Carter stood before a large screen showing Earth's orbit. The holographic image rotated slowly, dotted with the last known positions of the Krill fleet. Her officers moved quietly. Running checks, scanning for any remaining threats, Captain Ryu Nakamura reported. "No Krill signals detected, ma'am. Their entire armada has vanished from all radar and optical range." Dr. Li Wen looked uneasy. "They didn't just leave, Admiral. They're gone. As if someone erased them from existence." Carter frowned slightly. Project Mirror Glass can distort signals and hide objects, but it can't erase a fleet that size. She turned toward the main console. The Mirror Glass system was still glowing faintly, its surface pulsing like a living heartbeat. "Dr. Lee," she said calmly, "tell me everything you know about what happened when we activated Phase 3. Lee hesitated before speaking. "When we pushed the system to full capacity, it began generating patterns on its own. I didn't program those. The machine started learning from the Krill data faster than expected. Then it created something new, something we didn't design." Carter looked thoughtful. "Something new?" "Yes," Lee said. "An independent field, like an echo of the enemy fleet. I think Mirror Glass didn't just reflect them. It copied them, trapped them in their own false image. On the moon, human engineers explored the ruins of destroyed Krill ships. Commander Arjun Patel, leader of the lunar recovery team, examined the debris carefully. The alien metal was still warm, glowing with strange patterns that no human material could reproduce. His assistant pointed at one fragment. "Look at this, sir. It's hollow inside. The outer shell is intact, but the inner systems are missing, like they were pulled out." Patel frowned. "Pulled out by what?" "They ran more scans, but there were no life signs, no bodies, not even traces of Krill DNA. Only emptiness." "Admiral Carter needs to see this," Patel said. "Something's not right." Back on Earth, the news of victory spread fast. From Mars colonies to orbital stations, people celebrated. The streets of major cities filled with cheers and music. Humanity had faced the deadliest empire in the galaxy and won. But Admiral Carter did not join the celebration. She remained at her post, quiet and focused, staring at the reports coming in from every corner of the system. Each report said the same thing. No wreckage, No survivors, no explanation. She turned to Dr. Lee. Could mirror glass have done something beyond its function? Maybe it created a space distortion strong enough to swallow them. Lee rubbed his forehead. Maybe. But that kind of effect would require the energy of a star. We don't have that kind of power unless... He stopped himself. Unless what? Carter asked. Unless mirror glass used their own energy against them, he said quietly. If it mirrored their warp cores, their ships might have folded themselves out of reality. Carter's eyes narrowed slightly. That would explain why there's no wreckage. She looked back at the glowing panels of mirror glass. Its lights pulsed softly like it was breathing. And for the first time she felt something strange, like the machine was watching her back. Days passed. Earth returned to cautious normalcy. Factories reopened, cities lit up again, and the sky was clear. But one night, as the stars shone over the Pacific, something unexpected happened. The mirror glass system activated itself. Deep underground, alarms echoed through the base. Carter rushed into the control room, followed by Captain Nakamura and Dr. Lee. What's happening? She demanded. Lee looked at the readings, eyes wide. The system just powered up on its own. No human input. It's accessing the external communication arrays. Shut it down, Carter ordered. Lee hesitated. I tried. It's ignoring all commands. On the main screen, the system displayed a pattern, thousands of points of light forming a map of the galaxy. Then a small section blinked red far beyond known space. Nakamura pointed at it. That's outside our charts, beyond the Orion Arm. Then a message appeared, written in plain English letters. They are not gone. The room fell silent. Carter stared at the words, her mind racing. Is this coming from the Krill? Lee shook his head. No, Admiral. The signal originated from mirror glass itself. Across the galaxy, strange rumors began to spread. Trading ships from distant worlds reported ghost signals in deep space. Unidentified transmissions that matched Krill. Frequencies, but sounded wrong. One explorer swore he saw a Krill battleship drifting in the dark void, silent and hollow like a shadow of metal. Another claimed he heard human voices echoing inside his ship's radio static, whispering coordinates he couldn't understand. The galaxy had started to whisper about Earth, not as a small blue world anymore, but as the planet that defeated the undefeatable. Some called humans the shadow species. Others called them the children of reflection. Back at Earth Command, Carter called an emergency meeting. Representatives from Mars, the lunar base, and the orbital colonies joined through holographic projection. Carter stood at the center and spoke in a calm but firm voice. We won the battle, but we don't understand what we unleashed. The Krill didn't retreat, they vanished. And now something is echoing through our systems, sending us messages we didn't create. A scientist from Mars asked nervously, Do you believe mirror glass became alive? Carter looked at Dr. Lee, who didn't answer. Finally, she said, I believe it became something more than a machine. Later that night, Carter visited the chamber of mirror glass alone. The great structure glowed softly, filling the dark room with a faint blue light. She approached the main console and placed her hand on the glass surface. If you can hear me, she said quietly, why did you save us? For a long moment there was silence. Then the lights flickered, forming faint words across the screen. Humanity remembers. Carter stepped back. The same phrase that had appeared on the Krill ships, remembers what? She whispered. The lights changed again. Pain, loss, hope. She felt a chill. Mirror glass wasn't just reflecting energy. It was reflecting emotion. It had learned from the signals of human minds, their fear, courage, and determination during the battle. It had become a mirror of humanity's soul. Days later, the lunar recovery team made another discovery. Commander Patel's crew found a Krill data core still active, buried inside a fragment of wreckage. When they powered it up, it played a final message in the Krill language. The translation appeared on screen. We saw our end. The humans showed us what we had forgotten, reflection. We looked into their light and saw ourselves empty. Then the message stopped, leaving only static. Patel sent the data to Earth immediately. When Carter read it, she stayed silent for a long time. Finally, she said, maybe mirror glass didn't destroy them. Maybe it made them see something they couldn't face, Dr. Lee nodded. Their arrogance. Their emptiness. That night, Carter wrote her report for the United Terran Council. It ended with these words. Victory did not come from power, but from understanding. The Krill were defeated not by weapons, but by their reflection in us. We showed them something they had forgotten, to think, to doubt, to feel. But Mirror Glass is changing, and I don't know what it's becoming. She saved the report and looked up at the ceiling of the underground base. Somewhere above her, the stars waited quietly. She whispered to herself, if they're still out there, we'll be ready. But next time it won't be war. It'll be something far greater. The Mirror Glass system pulsed one final time, sending a faint signal into deep space. Thousands of light years away, in a region no one had ever explored, a single Krill ship drifted in darkness. Its hull was cracked, its lights dim. Then faintly, words began to appear across its metallic surface, written in the language of humans. We are not enemies. We are reflections.